Hey there, I'm Ari from the Tech Buyers Guru, and I've got another product review for you here on the channel today. This time around, I'm checking out the Evolv Shift Air from Phanteks, a mini-ITX case that was launched in late 2019. Now, as some of you may know, I've been on a bit of a kick lately in terms of mini-ITX chassis. Earlier this year, I did check out the Sliger SV590. Then I did a number of videos on the Silverstone SG13, and most recently, I took a look at Silverstone's LD03AF or Airflow Edition. And frankly, when I tested the LD03AF, I decided, this doesn't quite have the performance that I was expecting it to have. Let me go out and find a case that actually has a lot of airflow. And I shot an email over to my contact at Phanteks and said, you've got this Evolv Shift Air. I haven't seen a lot of reviews of it out there, but it seems like it might be the ideal ITX gaming chassis. Can you send me a sample? And they actually got it right to me very quickly, and I was so excited I went ahead and built this thing up and tested it before I even shot this intro. Now I usually do my intros before I test it so I don't give away anything, but I couldn't keep myself away from this chassis once I got the box open. I had to test it out, and I'm gonna kind of spill the beans here. The performance is just not there. Now, if I went ahead and showed you the thermal benchmarks at this point, you would probably stop watching this video and say, I don't need to hear anymore. This case is a failure. This is why I am continuing to publish this review, and I haven't just given up. It's because of the build and ownership experience of this case. The price is, well, it comes in at retail at 110, but this is currently selling for 100, and I'm going to tell you, I guarantee it, you will not find a case that offers better craftsmanship and a better ownership experience for $100 than this case right here. Absolutely primo. From the brushed aluminum finish to these mesh speaker grills to the attention to detail inside and out. I just love, for instance, the spring-loaded top. That is just so slick. On a $100 case, I love how well this works. The fact that you get a fantastic manual. Best manuals in the business come from Phanteks, bar none. And just because this is only $100 does not mean they cheap out on the experience of giving you a fantastic manual. You could page through this and basically learn how to build your PC, even if you've never done it before. I mean, this thing is so detailed with such great illustrations, all sorts of tips. It's just fantastic. I started off by saying the performance isn't there. I haven't even shown you the performance yet, but I want to just tell you why I decided that this review was necessary, because Phanteks deserves a ton of credit. Now let's talk about the actual design of the chassis. I actually found that it was fairly hard to build in because I was attempting to max out the design and the specifications. Now, Phanteks says you can put dual 120 millimeter radiators in it, and that's exactly what I did. But let's take a look at the CAD design that Phanteks shows on its website, and I'm gonna do a little quiz here and let you guys try to figure out what's missing from this picture. Dun 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 dun. If you answered what is cables, Ari, you win. There are no cables in this CAD design, and frankly, I think that Phanteks engineers forgot about the cables. Once you cable up your GPU, it actually does hit the side fan or the power supply depending on how you mount it. The other thing is they actually advertise this as having a reversible GPU mount, but I found that wasn't really true. It comes from the factory so that your GPU faces inwards. Actually, if you flip it, you find that you can't install the GPU. The power cables actually impact the power supply. I simply couldn't mount it. Now, yes, I know there's another YouTuber out there who has shown a card just like this fitting in there, but he's using custom cables, flexible cables that are individually braided, and they are a lot more flexible than the standard cables I used in my build. I simply could not get the video card into the case mounted with the fans facing outwards. And you may say, Ari, why didn't you get custom cables? Come on, do it right. I've actually had that comment before on previous reviews. Look, guys, my job is as a reviewer is to take a case and attempt to use standard components like the ones you'd probably use off the shelf and get them to work as specified in the marketing materials. I'm not going to get custom cables just to build up this PC when Phanteks doesn't say you need custom cables to build up this PC. Well, if you want your GPU to be facing out, To get fresh air, you need custom cables, all right? But with all that said, let's get into the final build. I'll show you a few more images of that, and then I'll give you the benchmarks. Now for the power supply, I went with Silverstone's new SX700, a platinum rated SFX unit, putting out, of course, 700 watts. This unit gave me plenty of extra space for cabling, and while the case is rated for SFXL units, you could see it would get very crowded in there. In terms of the cooler, I went with Silverstone's PF120, and note that I did have to mount the fan below the chassis in order to make space for the dual radiators. You can see they're actually touching here. Space is certainly at a premium. Note that the case does include one 140mm fan set as an exhaust from the factory. I did run some benchmarks with it flipped just to show you if it would improve as an intake, which it actually did not. You're going to see comparisons to the Sliger SV590, which has a very similar form factor but comes in at 18 liters, and then the Silverstone LDO3, which has a slightly different form factor and is larger at 25 liters. So here are the idle benchmarks with my liquid-cooled GTX 1080 Ti. Note that I did have two sets of benchmarks for the Evolv Shift Air with the standard case fan and then the case fan reversed. In this situation, it doesn't change much, and overall, the temperatures were a little bit hotter than I expected and quite a bit hotter than the Sliger SV590, which has a similar form factor but comes in at just 18 liters. Now looking at this load test in CPU-Z, we do see that the Phanteks Evolv Shift Air is suffering at 71 degrees, quite a bit hotter than the Silverstone LDO3 that was using the exact same cooler, and significantly hot, of course, than the Sliger SV590, which was using the 240mm version of that Silverstone cooler. So overall, this is pretty unimpressive, but what really got me were the gaming benchmarks. Here, my GPU, which is a liquid-cooled 1080 Ti, went absolutely haywire, hitting 84 degrees, which I have never seen it do. This was completely unacceptable and so bad that I thought I had actually broken it during the installation. As soon as I was done running these benchmarks, I removed it. It was so hot I could barely touch it, but I stuck it into my ATX test bench, and thankfully it was back to working perfectly, running around 60 degrees at an ultra-low fan level. It was certainly not broken, but it acted broken in the Evolv Shift Air. Next, it was time to try my RTX 2080 Ti open air model. And here I actually tested it in 3 different cases, the SG13 from Silverstone, the LDO3 again from Silverstone, and then the Shift Air. Note that at idle, the GPU temps are higher with my 2080 Ti than with my liquid-cooled 1080 Ti because the open air model here runs its fans at 0 RPM at idle, so this is completely passively cooled. And even as I get into my CPU-Z stress test, that GPU is still running at 0 RPM, and luckily doesn't affect the CPU at all. It's still running at 71 degrees here, so no bad news yet, but let's take a look at the gaming benchmark. Well, no big surprises here. There is no silver lining. The Evolv Shift Air is running my 2080 Ti at 86 degrees, the hottest I've ever seen it run. And it is actually hotter than the SG13, which is half the size. And frankly, the only good news here is that it's pretty quiet. So despite the fact that the fans are blazing at 100%, it's still no louder than in the Silverstone LDO3. And I do have to hand it to Phanteks. Something about the Shift Air's design does lend itself to quiet computing. So in the end, what do I think of the Phanteks Evolv Shift Air? Well, I would say that if you're looking for a high-end gaming PC case, this is not the one. I've already detailed the performance issues, the build issues, and then frankly, there's an airflow issue. So despite the fact that they added mesh, if you've watched this channel for a while, you know that I am focused on airflow, and it's not just about the way something looks, it's the way it performs. And while this is very airy, the problem is that all the fans inside here are fighting each other to get access to that air. They're all blowing in different directions. There's no cohesive airflow design to this case. It is not, for instance, a bottom to top airflow design like some towers like this might be. You've got a fan pulling air away from your CPU coolers, your GPU cooler. None of it really quite makes sense. So look, don't use it for a high-end gaming PC or a high-end content creation PC. You will be disappointed. But if you're building a PC in the $1,000 price range, this $100 case might fit right in. It's a beautiful case. Like I said, you get an ownership experience unlike anything else at the $100 price point. And it would be pretty good if you used a low TDP GPU, something below 200 watts, maybe like even below 150 would be ideal, and something shorter than 10.5 inches. Ideally 9.5 inches or shorter would fit nicely in this case. Don't go with a reference size 10.6 inch card. You'll just have headaches because you want your GPU to face out, and you can't do it with this card or this size card even. The other thing in terms of CPUs, well, you can go with liquid cooling. But, you know, look, my opinion of 120 millimeter liquid coolers is they have their place if you can get good airflow to them. But this case has its challenges, and there isn't a lot of space for it. You actually may want to use a low profile air cooler like Noctua's NHL12S, which is a great air cooler, would fit nicely in this. You have, I think, 82 millimeters of clearance, and that cooler is 70 millimeters tall. So that would be a great choice for a mainstream system. You don't need to spend $100 on an liquid cooler. Get that $50 air cooler. I think it would work well on a Ryzen 5 3600 because actually the CPU itself gets great airflow through here. It gets worse airflow down here where I have my radiator mounted, right? I'm not taking advantage of the mesh down here where I have my radiator mounted. Put it right here, we can breathe right through that mesh and you'll be really happy. So I actually give this case 4.5 out of 5 stars. I don't know, you might be thinking that's crazy. The performance was terrible. Yeah, but that's because I built it up as a high-end gaming PC with dual radiators or this RTX 2080 Ti, and it was just the wrong equipment. I was kind of going based on how Phanteks is marketing this case, but frankly, I'm going to tell Phanteks they should market it differently because there's going to be a lot of buyers out there who would love this $100 case for their $1,000 mainstream gaming PC or content creation PC. You know, throw in like an 8-core CPU and a very moderate GPU just for app acceleration, something like, say, a GTX 1650 in there, and you'll be totally set. You won't have any thermal problems at all, and you'll have a beautiful PC sitting next to you. A lot of people might use it as their content creation PC. Maybe they'll feature it on their channel or in their videos as, you know, part of their, you know, the equipment that they take pride in. You really can't do better than this, $100. So again, 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I know, like I said, some of you are going to say, that's crazy. It was a thermal bomb. It was a disaster. If you just change your perspective on how you look at this case, you'll see that it actually has a lot going for it. And that's why I like it so much. And I'm going to keep it around, and I'm going to be using it for more of a mainstream PC, content creation, and a professional PC, and it will be great for that purpose. So if you have any questions or comments, which I know you do, post them down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe. I really appreciate that, and I will catch you next time.